Focus on marketing for conscious brands. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you about how you approach marketing in a thoughtful way because we know that marketing does not have the best reputation. It can be used to push us to overconsume, maybe even trick us into things that we don't need and won't use. There's a lot of greenwashing going on. But also, marketing is how all brands, including conscious brands, slow fashion brands, connect with their potential customers. It might just look a different way. So, can you tell us how you balance that with marketing?
Yeah, I think this is such a powerful, interesting question because it's a struggle every day. I won't say that it's easy because, like you said, marketing comes in line with selling, and all brands, ethical or not, want to sell. So you really it's hard to create that balance. But I think that as ethical brands, what I like to promote is a lot about being transparent and the storytelling part of things, right? So it doesn't matter if your product is really low ticket or high ticket. You have to learn to educate your audience about why it costs what it costs, about how this product will add value to your life. And it's also about trying to shift the mindset of educating people to consume really what they need, but at the same time it's like, yeah, you need this, but it would be nice if you can shop and buy my products every year. So I think there's like definitely different marketing strategies that you can try in to create like this community and talk to your community and educate them, but also like make them a part of your sustainable consumption. So it's really also about being very authentic, knowing your worth, and also not feeling bad either if you sell products or services about the price that you have, and being like really really standing your ground of this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in, and this is why I choose to partner with certain people that or certain parts of my supply chain that might be a little bit more expensive to the end product and to the end pricing that you're going to have. But eventually like that you have to find ways to tie that into your storytelling so that people know and understand that you're doing things different, and that you didn't just make up a price, and you're not just trying to sell. It's like it's a struggle, but it's about finding that balance of trying to sell without being salesy all the time, because I think especially in the digital marketing world, we're always bombarded with a lot of information, right? It's like always take action, subscribe here, download this.
Mhm.
In 24 hours, the discount's gonna, expire.
Mhm.
So it's also, I think, I for consumers and for regular people, not just consumers, like all kinds of business owners and consumers. It's a little bit I don't know how to call it, like it's a little bit frustrating that you're always getting these triggers and that there's not enough messaging that's like it's okay if you don't consume, right? So if you're a brand that you are trying to put content out there, you have to sort of put more of what you believe in your content marketing, so that you're you're making that balance between selling and promoting your values. So it's like putting content out there that you're really trying to build a community, that you're trying to educate people, and that yes, sometimes I'm going to tie in my promotions, and I'm going to ask you to shop if you want, but at the same time you are being like really authentic about trying to build that community. So some examples of this would be like, I even talked about this in another live as well, but it's like if you are a brand that sells yoga pants, and I don't know, like meditation and mindfulness is something very important, you would like to build a community of people that want content and want to consume content to be mindful and to be more in the present and to meditate. So you can think about ways in which you're going to create content that adds value, and that you are using that content to drive people to become part of this community with you, when they're going to have you like in their top of mind, but at the same time they know that you're truly caring about what you're putting out there, right? So it's that's sort of how I like to tie that balance. It's like it's not always putting your content of selling, it's about adding value as well.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Marketing can take many different forms. And I love how you talked about the education aspect and the community aspect. Like, marketing doesn't have to be just discounts and hard sales
Mhm.
pitches. So, yeah, of course, touched on this in that response, but I would love if we could dive a little bit deeper into what exactly ethical marketing is, because that's what you do in your
Mhm.
business is ethical marketing. And so I think to many people that might sound like an oxymoron. So if you could just share
Mhm.
what ethical marketing is and, how you practice it in your business.
Yeah. So, like for me, my definition of ethical marketing is really about making marketing like less salesy, less urgent, and more valuable. So it's like about tying these three things in and really having, in the essence, being transparent as like your core mission, right? So
Yeah.
sustainable brands are not perfect all the time. So we really need to understand that as well, because I know that especially as a sustainable business owner or as an ethical business owner, it's really hard to choose what you want to claim and the values that you're willing to commit to, because you can make one small mistake and you know that there's going to be people that might get mad because maybe I don't know, they found out that some that you're saying that you don't use plastic, and if for some reason one day they find that you use plastic, it's like a huge uh, revolution, and people get really mad. So it's really I know that sustainable and ethical brands are not perfect, but ethical marketing is being transparent and owning that process and sharing that journey and sharing, the mistakes and saying, yes, maybe we made this mistake, but we're also trying to do X, Y, and Z to improve. So it's really about, always communicating that to your audience and making sure that the values that you choose at first always are like the non-negotiators and the foundations of your business, because it's very important to have your brand values defined so that you can build your business around those values. Say no to certain suppliers, manufacturers, or people that you're going to partner with if they don't align like 200% to the values that you want to promote. Because I think that if you have really your core values defined, that will allow you to be transparent and to share that process and to share the ups and downs with your audience.
Mhm. Yes, transparency is so, so key. I would definitely take a conscious brand who shares what they are doing and also what they're working on where they're not quite there yet, rather than a brand who
Mm-hmm.
is pretending to be 100% perfectly sustainable and ethical, because that to me is almost a signal that they haven't dug deep enough in their supply chain, because knowing how screwed up this system is, like, in
Yes.
terms of fashion, and I think near every industry, I mean, yeah, there's something that's not perfect for sure.
Yeah. And like for example, some of my clients have come to me like with these struggles, like, oh, I'm not sure if I should claim myself like if I'm a sustainable or an ethical brand. And then sometimes they even take a few steps back and they're not like willing to share their sustainability efforts because they're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And like what I always tell them is like, no, you should definitely, like we're mentioning, say what you're doing, and that maybe you're not perfect, maybe not all of your products are plastic free, but if some of them are, you definitely want to highlight that, because that's being transparent and that's saying I do care. And maybe and if, like in this world it's impossible to not use plastic.
Mhm.
It's like plastic is everywhere, and there's many different ways in which you can approach the use of plastic, and how you promote recycling or other ways in which you can give back. But it's also really about not being afraid to share where you are,
Mhm.
even if you're not in like a perfect point that feels and sounds perfect to you.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love when I see on a brand's website, like if they have a transparency page or sustainability page, maybe what material they're using or whatever doesn't sound like the most sustainable, but then they'll walk you through why they chose this material and say, this isn't a perfect solution, but the alternatives on the market were much, they were inferior quality and we really want to make products that last. So we're using this material and we're, investing in
Mhm.
research to in the future have a more eco-minded quality material so we can have the best of both worlds. And I love to see that thought process as well on a brand's page. So I know that they thought about it at least.
Mhm. Yes, and I think you're touching like a very important aspect as well with ethical marketing, to make sure, especially to have all of these things on your website, because a lot of ethical and sustainable brands just have, the basic website, the about page, and that's it. But they don't have much more, content there that starts to back up and to, keep telling this story that you have different efforts and that you're trying to make a difference with everything that you're doing in your community, and the material sourcing and all of that. So that's something that definitely, like, if you're a sustainable brand hearing this, like, you want to make sure that all of that is on your website. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think that people obsess, like, no, my website has to look perfect and I only want, certain sections and stuff like that. But the more content that you have, the more it shows that you're not afraid to share that process and to be transparent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.